You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker, what you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
You know, I was thinking about it. As far as this series is concerned right now, and a lot of people are upset around here, sick and tired of hearing Kenny Atkinson complain about the clutching, the grabbing, and the holding, considering the foul situation. I know Rick Carlisle had to address that a little bit earlier in a meeting with the media during or before practice over at the facility. And as I mentioned, and I think everybody else has said the same thing to this point right now, that this is where you are. This is where you are, and the playbook is that of Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson did that regardless of winning or losing. And the reason why it's done is because you're trying to gain an advantage. I think some would argue that maybe Kenny Atkinson got the job done prior to game number 2. You know, considering Donovan Mitchell went to the free throw line 21 times. And the other thing you have to consider, what Cleveland did defensively against Tyrese Halliburton the entirety of the game, but it was magnified at the beginning, was exactly what Kenny Atkinson complained about before the game. Literally 2 hours before that started, he was complaining about it. That very thing, the clutching, the grabbing, the physicality that is, as he put it, not basketball related and over the top. So all of a sudden, they do it too. That's what the postseason is all about. The postseason normally is more physical. You have to put up with stuff, and you have to get through it. So I will tell you this. I do like the tack the Pacers have taken so far. And I've heard Tyrese Halliburton and Rick Carlisle. I like Rick Carlisle earlier today, and I'm sure we'll play that over the course of the afternoon, when his response was, you know, we're just going to play the game. We kind of know this time of year that everything's going to ramp up, including the physicality, and we're not going to cry about it. We're just going to be, he mentioned, we're not going to cry about it. So you could tell he, A, didn't really want to hear about it and was sick of hearing about it, and B, you could tell that he, much like us, and I'm telling you right now, understands that's exactly what the Cavaliers were doing. The other reason for Kenny Atkinson doing this is he had two dudes that what he believes they were injured in situations where he felt the physicality was beyond basketball and over the top. If you remember, going back to after the game in game number 1, he had mentioned that it wasn't dirty, but it was overly physical. And he was talking about the Mobley injury with the ankle, talking about the DeAndre Hunter thumb injury, and they also factored in that of Jared Allen. But let's face it, injuries, there's no doubt it's a tremendous deal. You lose a significant piece in both games in Darius Garland, and then in game number 2, you lost significant pieces in Mobley and in Hunter. However, let's face it. Face the facts here. If you look at it from any different direction and you're reasonable, the reason why Cleveland is down 0-2 in the best of 7 is on them. They should have won that game without those 3 dudes in game 2. For them, it should be even. I mentioned in game number 1, the Pacers didn't steal that. Well, they didn't steal it. They took it from the start. They had ownership of it. It was theirs. That's how well that they played. And that was from the very beginning. There was no stealing of it. They were consistently higher level, with the exception of about a 5-minute stretch in the third. That's how they played. That's who they were. That's what they did. And that, to me, is exactly what exemplified the outcome. How they played. There was no stealing, there was no taking, there was no thievery. They dominated that performance. Now, game number 2 was different. They had really, other than hanging with it and trying to make every single play and then having everybody whine about lane violations, that's how you know you go to the least common denominator in the NBA is when you're whining about lane violations because nobody pays an ounce of attention to it at any other time. And then when you go back, like all these stills in this video I have seen, especially coming out of Cleveland, all is supposed to implicate the Pacers in wrongdoing. And pointing the finger at the final 2-minute report from the NBA. But everybody was in there. Why? Because everybody is always in there. How often do you ever see a call? This is one thing I'll guarantee coming up tomorrow night. There's going to be a lane violation call. And there may have been one. I think there was one in game 2 already, was there not? Didn't Matherin get a lane violation call in game number 2? So really, that should have been eye-opening anyway. I think it was Matherin that got the lane violation in game number 2. But you can almost guarantee in game 3 coming up tomorrow night, there is going to be whistled a lane violation because so much has been said about it. Yeah, the NBA is incredibly reactionary. You know, we kind of make fun all the time, the best in the world, the best in the world. The best in the world, if that's what you consider them to be, can also have significant issues and also can get caught up in things. It's human nature. But again, I like what the Pacers and how the Pacers are dealing with it. They say this is the playoffs. They have 1 year of experience doing this. And I like the way that they're going. These are going to be incredibly tough games. This game 3, I thought game 2, and it was going to be the toughest. Now, obviously, game 3 is going to be different because you're back at home and you're up 2-0 right now, and everybody's going to be feeling good. There is euphoria in the air around here right now, and that is going to be at a fever pitch coming up tomorrow night downtown at the Fieldhouse with game number 3 in mind because you can take an absolute stranglehold. And then if you look around at what else is going on, and you know, these aren't discussions we'll have right now because there's still a lot of work for them to do, a lot of completing for them to accomplish. But, you know, you look at a rematch of what we saw potentially of the Eastern Conference semifinals a year ago, and that Knicks team was all beaten up. That Knicks team didn't have Karl Anthony Towns. That is going to be and has been for Boston, really from the regular season until the postseason, a completely different experience. And you look back at this series, the Pacers have been really good. Health has been a consideration for the Cavaliers, but in game number 1 was shot-making ability. Let's face it, they didn't shoot it at a high-quality clip. They didn't shoot it from 3. They were disjointed, discombobulated, much like what we have seen in the first 2 games for the Boston Celtics. Man, you look great. You feel good. Everybody feels good when you're knocking down a lot of your three-point shots, and then nobody says a word about the high volume that you're taking. It is only when you're shooting about 29% from distance so far in the Eastern Conference semifinals, that's when everybody is going to take notice. And then all of a sudden now, the lack of Kristaps Porzingis is a significant reason as to why you're down 0-2. You know, and not so much because they can't shoot straight. And what they normally leaned on to be their bread and butter the entirety of the year, to be one of the better teams in the NBA, they can't do it. And that is shoot to 3. Now, people all the time say, you know, I can't believe they settle for all these threes. They're not settling for the threes. That's what they do. That's what they do. That's their layup. That's their comfort zone. I'll give you a great example. In basketball, when people say, well, you don't necessarily need to go for a 3, you know, we can get a 2 right now. While that is right in theory, my point has always been, here's what you do. You shoot the shot, no matter what situation that it is, that you're most comfortable and confident you're going to make. If that's a layup, then holy hell, great. But if that's a straight-on three with little to no resistance and no closeout, that's okay with me too. It's whatever you feel comfortable in doing, whatever you do the best. So that's why Boston is doing that. And Cleveland is still trying to rely upon that. It has been shaky. And again, it's easy. You look at the Cleveland situation, being without three of their top guys is going to be detrimental to anybody. And believe me, the Pacers want to play against this thing coming up full bore. We'll see if it is tomorrow night in game number 3. But make no mistake, the one thing that nobody is saying, and the one thing you don't have to argue about right now as a Pacer fan, is the fact that it isn't real. Last year you had to put up with a lot of, well, this is fake and not real. I think everybody kind of gets it by now. It is a high-quality basketball team. May not be built the same as everybody else, may not function the same as everybody else, but this is a high-quality basketball team that can get your ass. And they can do it in a variety of ways. And it is a team without a guy that you would be certain that's going to go for 42. You can make the argument last night, if you're watching OKC in Denver, that's the first time OKC, because they hadn't played in stinking forever with that sweep over Memphis. In game number 1, OKC really didn't look like OKC being the best team of the NBA the entirety of the season. Last night, they did. They took a cue. Because what happens? You let somebody hang around, somebody's going to beat you. Game number 2, Cleveland, even undermanned the way that they did. They let the Pacers hang around, and the Pacers came back to beat them. And hell, we argued about the same thing last year in the Eastern Conference Finals in Boston. Remember how many games the Pacers we felt should have won? You know, one time, game 2, I believe, for the finals, because they couldn't inbound the ball? Yeah, a lot of that hits home and makes sense. Big one coming up tomorrow night, and it is going to be incredibly difficult, again, regardless of the personnel. Because when I bring up must-win situations often on this show, normally now it's known as a joke. Now this is absolutely for real for them. Because you are toast. Even in an odd season like this year, when all the road teams, with the exception of OKC, are winning games, you're down 0-2 at home if you're Boston to the Knicks going to Madison Square Garden. Yeah, we'll see what happens in Minneapolis later on tonight with Golden State and Minnesota. Golden State got it done a majority of the game. 13 minutes they had with Steph Curry the other night and lost. Timberwolves lose with 13 minutes played by Steph Curry, which just can't happen. And we'll see if that happens coming up later on tonight. Denver OKC split, and OKC, as we mentioned, so far is the exception to the rule. Yeah, we'll see if Minnesota can join that coming up later on tonight. All right, we can discuss that. Tomorrow is going to be an absolute blast at 239-1070. The email address is jmv1075thefan.com. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. People continue the conversation. It's weird, right? I don't feel like that we have to defend anything, right? Does that make sense? Like a year ago, you had to defend. Normally, we feel like as people that cover or fans of the Pacers, you have to defend their honor because they're not getting the hype, not getting the love, not getting the conversation. But I think everybody's dialed into the program right now. I see very little out there as to reasons for, and I know the Halliburton thing, that was the epicenter of the whole Athletic article that started that. But Tyrese Halliburton has absolutely and most certainly put that bad boy to bed. And now when you watch and you pay attention, for example, You're like, you're recently birthed Lou Williams. Oh, wait a minute. I have to watch all of basketball to do this job? All right, well, I'll watch a little bit of the Pacers. Well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe now I understand a little bit. I'll be a bit flippant and, try to be a funny ass in what I say. Pacer fans, stay out of my mention. First of all, if you're Lou Williams, you probably want Pacer fans in your mentions. Don't you want mentions? That's what you're looking for is response, reaction. But the good thing about it is, now even Lou Williams is dialed in and understands exactly what this Pacer team is all about. He was forced to do it. He didn't really recognize it as his job status, but he was forced to do it. But now he recognizes that. And as a Pacer fan, this feels like the first time in a long time we are not consistently trying to defend or justify the reason why your favorite team is doing as well as it is. It's not the little engine that could. It's not Hickory. It's not the classic David versus Goliath. It's just a damn good basketball team that is put together much differently than many other damn good basketball teams, many other successful basketball teams. It's a good thing. Just kind of sit back and watch. If you're going to complain, you're going to complain. I'm assuming at some point. I saw Scott Foster return last night. Did you guys check that out in OKC in Denver? I think the first time since March the 17th, one of our favorite officials, one of the best in the world, was back. So I'm assuming here relatively soon there's zero way that the Pacers don't get Scott Foster either Friday night or Sunday. Now, think about it this way. We've seen, Tony Brothers twice in the postseason. And I think we were all pretty happy in round number 1 with Tony Brothers in Milwaukee, and not too many people were happy the other night. But again, all of that was wiped clean. There were a lot of things that a win like that's improbable, that's impressive, that's exciting. Many things that can wipe clean. There wasn't too much complaining about the officiating. Can you imagine how much officiating complaints we would have? Would be lobbed at me had the Pacers lost that game, had Halliburton not drained that three and won it, had Miles not tipped it out, had Halliburton not missed that free throw purposely. You imagine what we'd be talking about? We'd be talking about the free throw line, the officiating, the whistles, and we'd be talking about Pascal Siakam. All right, what's going on here? Elite level player. Where is he? What happened? And what this does now, you're up 2-0, and you go back to game number 2, and you did see a game in which, for the most part, down the stretch, a couple of layups, had an and one opportunity, missed a couple of free throws, but got saved by Aaron Nesmith on the putback. You're up 2-0, and in game number 2, you didn't get what you normally need for success from Pascal Siakam. So now is the time to get that back in business, because you are not going to be in situations moving forward where you can lean on the fact, and I love the fact that they are a team, but there are just some essentials you have to have along the way. That is absolutely, for this Pacer team, one of them. And that is Pascal Siakam. And more than what we witnessed in game number 2. They survived that, got it done. That is great. Nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to talk about the officiating. But that has to be the exception to the rule of him playing to the standard in which we all have seen that made him an all-star this year. And they'll be searching for that coming up on Friday night. All right, 239-1070. Again, the email address is jmv@1075thefan.com. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live on this Thursday. Thank you very much. You guys have been asking. I do not think I'm going to be on the road coming up tomorrow. Here's what I think happens. I think I'm going to be in studio, and then I think I probably end up, James, we'll have to go late tomorrow because there's zero way I'm going past 6 o'clock tomorrow. So I hope everybody here understands this right now, right? Normally I do leave it up to our bosses to make up the rules, but I'm making up this rule. There's zero way I'm staying here after 6. So zero, none, because I'm going to the game. All right?
All right.
Yeah, so yes, can we go ahead and set that right now? Even if I have to do something else.
Well, the show will probably run till 6:30, but we can figure out a way for you to
absolutely
not have to stay.
I like James and that attitude right there. We're going to figure out a way, by God, is what we're doing with that. Because I'm going to meet all you guys on the way, because we have to get things started the right way. I don't know, maybe a little Coach's Tavern. Our good friend Tommy S. on the way coming up tomorrow. What are you guys thinking? I say hell yeah. Nah, tomorrow's going to be fun. Certainly. Evan Sidery, not just about this particular matchup in the Eastern Conference semifinals, but about everything. The reasons why, much beyond what I explained, the Celtics going haywire. Hey, listen, the Knicks are good. Let me tell you this. I got a great description. I have a friend named Brian Spice down in Bloomington, class of 1984 from Eastern Green. Brian Spice texted me last night, and he said, Jalen Brunson is a classic hyper player of the 19. He is. Now, I'm not taking anything away because he's a badass dude. The one thing I don't like is the constant head bobbing and the baiting for fouls. So if you can get past that in his game, that is a badass dude that you love because he is a big shot maker. And it's not like he has been blessed with this incredible amount of God-given talent. He has just worked his craft. I like him. The head bobbing, I hate. And the foul baiting, I hate. But his game is as impressive as anybody, especially in clutch time and late game situations. But Brian Spice sent me a text last night from Bloomington and has said he's like an 80s Y player right there. I can't help but like him. And I would agree. I can't help but like him, even when he drives you nuts about the foul baiting. Made big shots, got down 20 in both games, come back, get big defensive plays from Mikal Bridges. Actually, a couple of big shots in the fourth from Bridges last night as well. And who would have thought a team that didn't have a lot for the Celtics over the course of the regular season will be up 2-0 in their best of 7 with the Celtics going back to Madison Square Garden. And the other thing is, I'll keep it to a minimum on that here because I'm assuming, and I have not listened, I'm assuming if you turn on anything ESPN related, that is probably all that they're talking about. Am I right about that? Did anybody turn on anything ESPN related? And this has no relation or connection with, well, the Pacers aren't being talked about, they're being neglected, something. No, I don't care. But I'm assuming anywhere you go on any ESPN affiliated program nationally, it's going to be about the Knicks. It's all about the Knicks. So we'll keep that conversation at a minimum, but we will bring it up because of what took place last year and because the Knicks, much like the Pacers, have ownership so far up 2-0 in their Eastern Conference semifinal with the Celtics. We can discuss that, what is going on out west. Again, 8:30 later on tonight, your lone contest, Minnesota at home, trying to keep Golden State from going up 2-0 in that best of 7 out west. That is coming at you later on tonight, and no Steph Curry involved. The Sancio Grand Prix is this weekend, too. A lot of people are going to head out to IMS with good reason, and it's not like the official month of May starts now, but it does give you an appetizer. You know, whatever your favorite appetizer might be. Let's just say, for example, James, it's you, and it's very early on in your youth. Your parents took you out to Outback and got you the blooming onion, right? That's to me what the Grand Prix is. It's like the blooming onion. Yeah.
It's not a bad comparison.
Right?
Blooming onions are good.
It's like the appetizer. This is the go-to appetizer before the main course.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Blooming onion. I've never been a big fan. Is Outback still the same as it always was, by the way, too? I've not been there in, like, decades.
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
Because listen, the thing about steakhouses around here, there are a million of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you could probably go, if you go to every one of them, you won't hit. If you go to every one of them individually, one at a time, you probably won't hit the same one in basically 2 decades, right? Because there's so many.
That's fair.
About 2 decades to go ring around the steakhouse Rosie around here, probably, I'd imagine.
That seems fair.
Yeah, the blooming onion. The Sancio Grand Prix coming up this weekend, too. That conversation coming up. Who we got? Evan Sidery, Mike Chappell, a little bit of football-related news with Mike coming up here with the Colts in the 5 o'clock hour. Remember, much like the Knicks are going to wear you out nationally on ESPN right now, just prepare. We're all going to wear you out on this quarterback competition. If you're not already worn out to this point, you will be worn out. Promise you that. There's no way around it. This is what the Colts have created. All right, 239-1070 on that and a lot more. Rob Thomas tickets for August to give away. Qualifying tickets for next week to give away. And more news on how you can join us because although we are not out today or tomorrow, we will be on the road a great deal. That includes a tavern tour stop at a very familiar location on Main Street in Speedway the week leading up to the greatest spectacle in racing. Got you covered right here. And a shout out to my man Austin and Braun's Fun Time Campers on Pendleton Pike, the supplier of our RV that's going to be out there from Carb Day through Monday on race weekend, and will also house the JMV Takeover live version on Saturday night. Somebody's going to have to explain to me, if you wouldn't mind, too, if you've been to the Coke lot recently, and I haven't, if you've been there recently, how does this whole wristband thing work? I'm curious. So somebody said you have to have after 11 o'clock wristbands. Is this true? I need a Coke lot camping veteran. And your information right there. I need educated on that. Coke lot education, which I'm certain I'm going to get in a couple of weeks on a Saturday. 239-1070. Email address is jmv1075thefan.com. AAA Membership Lounge. Hello, everybody there via YouTube Live and what is a busy week leading up to the Sancio Grand Prix on Saturday. And you have bookends Friday, Sunday, games 3 and 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Cavaliers and the Pacers at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Quick break. We'll come back after this. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
In 2 games, we've been called for 9 more fouls than them, and they've shot 9 more free throws than us. So it doesn't add up. So look, and we're not expecting any gifts from the referees. I don't think we got any. In either of the first 2 games, I know they disagreed with some calls. It's all part of it. It's all part of it. You know? So we've just got to do our very best to maintain the kind of edge you got to have headed into a 3rd game when you've won a couple.
Yeah, not going to get any gifts. Yeah, Rick Carlisle, and what he said there was 100% accurate. Everybody does it, and Kenny Atkinson is right out of the Phil Jackson Winery handbook. Donovan Mitchell shot 21 free throws. What did Rick say? The Cavaliers shot 9 more. The other thing that you notice, too, is every ounce of whining that Kenny Atkinson got out of his system prior to game number 2. Did you notice that they immediately went out and did exactly what he explained the Pacers were doing to them? And I said that yesterday, clutching, grabbing, holding, overly physical, beyond the realm of basketball physical. Not dirty, but beyond the realm of basketball physicality. That's exactly what they did. I know a lot of you view it as exhausting. I don't know if I would be exhausted from it. It is funny. It's very, I guess if I were a lot younger, I would say it's kind of douchey. You just go, come on, man. How can you watch that game and the constant parade to the free throw line and your dude sprawled out all over the floor for the most part in the 4th quarter and suggest the same thing you felt happened in game number 1 was, again, a determining factor in game number 2? That is pure and simple jackassery right there. But again, Phil Jackson, he mastered that. The sensei of winery, Phil Jackson. And most of the time, as Rick Carlisle mentioned, this is exactly what goes down. And again, the Cavaliers will argue this. They'll say, hey, we had 2 guys injured because of exactly what Kenny Atkinson was explaining. Then they went out and did the same thing. Come on. So I think Rick Carlisle and certainly the Pacers on the floor, they have responded exactly the way that you would want. And see, that's why you have us here to explain it. Because it is nothing but winery. That's all it is. And it's trying to get an edge, trying to get more of an edge. I mean, how much more can Donovan Mitchell go to the stinking free throw line tomorrow night, for goodness sake? All right, 239-1070. Is Officer Craig on here regarding Coke Lot rules and regulations? Officer Craig, thank you for calling the show, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Great. So, explain. Except for my voice, I don't know what the hell's happened there. I woke up going through puberty.
Right.
I think I'm going through puberty.
On people.
Does 55 years of age, is that when I start going through puberty? I think that's what's happening.
Sometimes. But I will speak. It's been a couple of years, and when I say couple of years, it's been at least 4 or 5 since I've been out there. But when I was with the Sheriff's Department, I was out there years on end for about 7 years straight. And I mean out there by working the Coke Lot all weekend long. And here around, 2016, 2015, they changed the rules out there where you absolutely have to have a wristband. And this was for safety concerns. So, back in the day when I would go out there a lot, as a young person, go out there and hang out, walk Georgetown Road and party and,
right.
Walk into the Coke Lot, walk out and go home. Yeah, what was happening, what had happened a few times, you had, some people that walked in off the street.
So you'd have jackasses ruin a good time is what happens, yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what it is now is that it's broken up into a few different sections, and you absolutely have to have a wristband, and that is to camp. So whether you're going to stay there the weekend or you're just there for an evening, you have to pay to get in. They give you a wristband, and I want to stress to folks, if you do not have that wristband, unless something's changed, which I do not know that it has, they will trespass you. They will make you leave. There are officers and deputies on foot, on golf carts, on ATVs, out and about and around to ensure the safety of all the patrons that are there at the Coke lot. And they basically give you one chance. If you're told to leave and you don't leave that one time, you end up at the Marriott for the evening.
No, man, that'd be a bummer.
Yeah, and that's not a good time for anybody. So just, pay your dues, whatever they charge to get in out there, find out what section, you're going to be, but there's different colored armbands for the different sections that are around there. It's not just one giant place like it used to be.
Okay, so where do I get these wristbands?
At the gate. It will be, basically as soon as they open the Coke lot, there will be, entrance points that they allow people to go to where you pay the fee. They give you the wristbands there, and it'll be good for the duration of the race weekend.
That makes sense.
So,
that's a lot of sense. I knew about the wristband thing. I just had no idea to the degree in which they enforce that. So,
and that's why, for those that live here close, there was a tragic event, a robbery that had occurred out there, where someone ended up losing their life. And you just can't have that. That is not good for anyone involved, anyone going, especially to those folks that are coming in from out of town. And they really started on the 100th because there was a lot of young college-age people that came from all over the country that came to spend their money here for the 100th when it was sold out. And they really didn't want them getting robbed. They're out there sometimes overserved and, not paying the closest of attention. So
yeah,
that's why they do it, and there to keep everyone safe and to have a good time.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Which I know you will. I said, which I know you will, and everyone that goes, I'm hoping that I can make an appearance out there that weekend as well.
Yeah.
Because I want to see JMV and everybody that comes out there.
Well, you got to come out here, too. I just want to give everybody a heads up that that's what's going to have to occur. And I'm going to have to do that, too, because, hell, I didn't know I had to have a wristband. Well, I did know, but I didn't know to what extent I had to have it. So now I know. So, Officer Craig, thank you for the info. We'll see you out there on race weekend, right?
Yes, sir. Anytime.
You got it. Officer Craig right there in the house with the update. I wonder, I need like a bowl full of wristbands. Can I order them?
I mean,
I should have asked that question. He was right there.
I mean, you should just talk to Doug Bowles about it. See if he can give you like a bowl full of them.
Text Doug or call Doug Bowles to see if he can come on if I can get a wristband of,
or a bowl
full of wristbands here.
Just toss them out like they're party favors.
I don't think they'd want that probably, right? But that'd be good. And that is coming up on race weekend out in the Coke lot. My first time, and we've done 2 live shows with the JMV Takeover at Mystic Waters Campground. That is a tradition with Brent Halverson. This is the first time that we have done it like this, certainly the night before the 500 in the Coke lot. All right, the 2-minute report with Joe. Matt talks Pacers. Another Joe was on here. We'll work you guys in. Evan Sidery talks NBA, Pacers, Cavaliers across the board in the semifinals of the postseason in the NBA, and Mike Chappell all still to come. Plus, we have stuff to give away. Do not move a muscle. We are entering what is going to be just beyond the love of the mothers out there for Mother's Day weekend. One hell of a Central Indiana weekend is on the inbound. Got you covered right here, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Or just enjoy them.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Rebounding, big thing. We got to do better against their pressure. And obviously Mitchell's a big concern, and it sounds like all their guys are going to play in Game 3. That's what we're hearing. So we got to be prepared for that. So, in a playoff series, there's always a lot going on. There's a lot we got to be ready for.
That's Rick Carlisle talking about Game 3. Yeah, this is me. I know I sound a little bit like, what they say, John Mellencamp after about 19 packs? I don't know why. I have zero idea. Shout out to Laura Steele, who just advised me on, what she advised me on here. She sent me a text, James. It seems like it's getting a little bit worse right here, to be honest with you. I don't know what you think over there. But it seems like maybe a little bit worse.
I believe the description was John Mellencamp after 2 packs of heaters.
Entertainer's Secret on Amazon. See, I'm not sick. I don't know what the hell's going on here.
You said it's not allergies?
No, I think it's puberty.
Oh, well,
yeah,
there you
I think
go.
my voice is changing, like Peter Brady did.
After only 56 years?
I mean, I think it's probably an ample amount of time
that's about
to make
time.
that transition into manhood right here. So that's me. Puberty. But other than that, I have zero idea. Hey, by the way, shout out to the super dentist. Brad Salmons had to replace a tooth of mine today. I thought about, just because where I'm from, just staying toothless, and I thought, yeah, I'll go ahead and get it. Super dentist is awesome. Said, you know what? You're going to be numb right up until game time. I said, okay. And he was absolutely right. Super dentist Brad Salmons, CG, everybody. Pretty awesome. But with the voice thing, I have no idea. Joe's got a 2-minute report update for us, or a question at 239-1070. Hello, Joe.
Hey, John, I want to preface this with saying that I moved here in 2001, and that first year, we moved in July.
Right.
I won tickets on the radio to go to the Pacers opening game that year, and I've been a fan for the last 24 years. And in that time, there's no better time to be a Pacers fan than right now. It's the greatest.
That's how you feel about this team, so we feel the same way. This is one of my favorite teams of all time around here.
Yeah, and regarding all the chirping about the 2-minute report, the Cleveland fans are just conveniently quiet about the fact that Neesmith took Mitchell's Heisman elbow to the face and didn't get a flagrant, which should have been called. And there should have been a shooting foul called when he had the three-pointer, and you don't hear anything about that. So the Pacers just need, I'm sure Rick Carlisle is telling us, they just need to block out the noise, not listen to everybody else, and just focus on their game and what they do, and they're going to be fine.
Nah, Joe, I think they're doing a great job of that. I like what he's saying. Hey, we're not looking for any gifts or anything like that. I think all 3 of their guys are going to play. That's how we're prepping. I mean, you feel fortunate. You got game number 2. You're up 2-0. And you have to deal with all this other noise, because ultimately what Kenny Atkinson says in the whole winery thing is going to end up coming back on the Pacers and their head coach, because now they're going to get peppered with questions just like that, and it probably does wear them out just a little bit. But the fact remains, Mitchell went to the free throw line 21 times. You saw the Cavaliers go to the free throw line 9 more times, and the Pacers, they did the same damn thing that Kenny Atkinson complained about before the game, during the game, in game number 2. So anybody with real eyeballs, real knowledge, or has a brain in their head realizes that this is nothing more than BS gamesmanship. That's all it is.
Yeah, and the other thing, I've said halfway through the season, they don't call the lane violations ever. I watch, and they'll have it. The guys will have their feet halfway across the line before they ever shoot and never move.
Yeah, I thought they called one in game 2. Did they not whistle Matherin for one?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they did on Matherin. They did.
So I guarantee there's going to be one. Yeah, you got that, Joe. Thank you for the call. I guarantee there's going to be one coming up tomorrow night. No doubt. Matt talks Pacers before the top of the hour. Matt, jump on here. How are you?
Hey, JMV. Just wanted to get your thoughts on 2 things.
Sure.
One of which you've already said not a whole lot of time on today. I just think it's funny. We come out yesterday morning fresh off that win, and national media is like, oh, the Cavs lost, and that's about it. Today, New York has the same kind of result last night, and it's all you can hear about in the show but on national news. But beyond that, I just thought it's interesting what is being said on the physicality. you made the point that Coach was saying the same thing for us last year. The difference is Cleveland's basically making the argument that we're being too physical, when in reality last year the Knicks were faking the physicality on us, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, the head tilt from Brunson, all that. And so the argument being, well, we got to make this a little more physical, and I think it worked out in our favor. So just something I noticed that was interesting. I think they're doing everything right now and keeping the right headspace. Thanks for your time.
I mean, they're playing. Thank you, Matt, for the call, too. I mean, they play through it. They're playing through it. They played through a lot. I mean, it was impressive. I know it was disappointing in the first quarter. I know there were moments when I'm sure you were disappointed. But the one thing you cannot be disappointed in is how they stuck to it and how they didn't quit, continued to go after it. That is one of the biggest qualities of this group, and one of the reasons why, if you like it, embrace it as much as I do. That's exactly why. That's just one of those qualities that's very endearing. If you're on hold, I'll get to you too. Evan Sider is going to talk NBA coming up on the other side. Mike Chappell after 5. Do not go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
The playoffs call for more physicality, scouting what teams like to do, all those things, right? And I think it's just human nature. I think all these games are really close as well. So down the stretch of games, the game gets slowed down. You want to get the best shot available every possession. So I think it's true to a sense, but I think that our identity is how fast we play. I think we talk about playing with controlled chaos. I think at the same time, we're not only fast in transition and in the full court, our half court offense is fast as well. There's a lot of movement, flying around, blur screens, pin downs, all that stuff. So, I feel like it's maybe overblown a little bit, but I understand where it comes from.
Tyrese Halliburton right there. Game 3 coming up tomorrow night, Cambridge Fieldhouse, 7:30 tip time, 7 o'clock coverage begins right here. That follows Colts Happy Hour, right? No, Colts Last Word coming up tomorrow night. Sometimes I get those mixed up. And Game 3 with the Pacers up 2-0, best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. One game later on tonight, I should say Minnesota tries to even it up with Golden State. 1 apiece. Game 2 tonight for Minneapolis. I believe that tip time is at 8:30 this evening. And, of course, we'll get you set for the games. All that and more right now, in fact, is on the table. Joining us from Forbes and more, covering the NBA, one of our friends and resources, Evan Sidery. Good afternoon, Evan. How are you?
Doing well, John. How about yourself?
Great. I did want to mention this to everybody, too. Miles Turner has an article that he has penned in the Players Tribune that if you're a Pacers fan, I would advise you to take a look at. I retweeted that or re-X'd that, if you will, a little bit earlier, and it is well-written and a fantastic story. And if you liked him already, I would flat guarantee you like him even more after reading that. So at some point today, give that a look and see what you think. It is Miles Turner in the Players Tribune. Evan, I know you're at work today, so you probably haven't had a moment to read that, have you?
No, I haven't, but just to reminisce a little bit about Miles Turner for a moment, I mean, going from where he was a couple of years ago with all the trade rumors, and you see how he didn't really fit the last iteration of this team. He was one of those veterans who might be on the move. And then you see Tyrese Halliburton get traded here. He thrives perfectly with Tyrese Halliburton, this young core. He established himself as a long-term piece for this team as well. But when you also look ahead to the number 33 itself, I grew up with Danny Granger as number 33. He was viewed, I think, as, for me, one of the best Pacers in my lifetime. I couldn't really see prime Reggie Miller because I was born in '96, but I think with number 33, I would have thought Danny Granger would be retired. But I think now, I mean, with the way this team's playing the last couple of years, if Miles Turner ends his career as a Pacer, John, I think he's going to get the number 33 retired under Miles Turner.
Yeah, it is amazing. I talk about this often because I'm going about 10 years now in supporting him when basically everybody else, with the exception of a handful, did not. And all that he references in this article that he pins, there's some of that in there as well, sticking to it and how everything evolved. And certainly when Tyrese Halliburton got here, everything changed for the better for him and this organization in particular.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that trade at the time we thought was a win-win. But, I mean, if you're doing local radio in Sacramento, California right now, you have to be sick to your stomach watching Tyrese Halliburton play, and the Kings are kind of right back where they started a couple years ago.
Yeah, he's also talking about what's going on in Indiana with the Pacers right now. Last year, the Eastern Conference Finals, up 2-0 right now. The Eastern Conference semifinals a year later, and the Indiana Fever. The basketball situation, really, it'd be hard-pressed to ask for anything better going on both sides right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're seeing the way that the Pacers and Fever are kind of united together, and it's kind of all under one umbrella there. The Pacers players supporting the Fever and vice versa. And I think for all Indianapolis fans of sports themselves, you kind of hope at this point this fall that the Colts can kind of bounce back a little bit. That's the one thing missing in the city right now. You have the Pacers are back. The Fever are restored to how they were 20 years ago. They're just missing. The Colts got to get back on track, John. That's the one thing missing here.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Evan Sidery's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So what do you make of the series so far? 2-0, and a lot has been made, especially from Kenny Atkinson, the coach of the year, the so-called physicality that his team is suffering through the first two games. Out of the Phil Jackson playbook, in your estimation?
Yeah, I don't know what's really going on there with the quote unquote physicality note, because a lot of the stuff that we saw, even in the last postseason run where Milwaukee and the Pacers got really chippy last year, the Knicks got really chippy with the Pacers. Like, this is kind of quintessential playoff basketball here. And I get that the Cavs are really hurt right now. You have a lot of your best players out of the lineup right now. We'll see their status for game 3 tomorrow night, but you're missing a lot of your good players. Of course, you want to say it's the ref's fault, but this is playoff basketball. It's going to be really physical. It's going to be a lot more adjusting to that physicality. And kudos to the Pacers, because they're one of the teams that, at least to me so far in the Eastern Conference, where nothing's really phased them so far. They've gone down by 20 plus. They came back and won. They've had these situations where they have these bad moments and they continuously bounce back. And I think you're seeing last year's playoff run really pay dividends so far in a huge way, because they're very battle tested. They're very resilient. You're seeing that in these last 2 games where I thought they'd split this series in Cleveland heading back to Indiana, John. It'd be 1-1, but to go up 2-0 in the way they did it in those 2 games, that's almost a knife to the heart for Cleveland, in my opinion. If you can go in and win game 3 tomorrow night, I think you're in a fantastic spot.
I'm going to get to the game 3 in just a second, but I had been in full support of the whole running it back mode. I feel as this point of the season where we are, very justified in making that point back in the summertime. You and I talked about that at great length as well. But do you think this also justifies, by whatever means necessary, to bring back the most that you can next year with this group? What do you think this means so far, or is this still going to be a particular work in progress?
I mean, to be quite honest with you, the way they played over the last 4 months of the season, you can deny it nationally if you want to, but this has been a top 3, top 4 basketball team since January. They've been a fantastic elite basketball team over a long stretch of the season. That proves that they're a team that if you continue to let them develop and grow together, add the necessary pieces here and there, hit on your draft picks, I think they're in a really good spot to let's continue to develop more and more long-term. You re-sign Miles Turner. I don't know why you would do a cost-cutting trade of an Obi Toppin or a TJ McConnell, for example. I think the one guy I'd look out for potentially as far as a money crunch is Benedict Mathurin, because he's obviously a contract extension upcoming this summer. And if you want to pay Miles Turner $30+ million, it could be pretty tricky there. But I think most of the guys on this roster, if you let them play their roles, if you hit on the draft picks, if you paid a couple of veteran free agents that are not going to cost a lot of money, just paying a little bit and going over the first apron, that's what any contender does nowadays. If you're the Simon family, if you're Steven Rails, you have to kind of have the realization this is a top 3, top 4 team every single year with this core. You got to keep that together.
So should I feel justified in telling them to spend the money? Fans have been waiting. Fans have gone through it when it's been really thin, not entertaining, and a lot of losing, and still go. Do they owe it to the fans to see this thing out with this particular group?
I think you do. And to be quite honest with you, if there's a move to be made this summer where you can accentuate this group and maybe make a win now move, I think that's something you got to explore too, because I think they're only legitimately 1 or 2 pieces away from being a year in, year out title contender with this team, health permitting. I think they've done a fantastic job building this roster the last couple of years with young guys, the veterans. The Siakam trade was fantastic. Obviously, the Halliburton trade, looking back on it, is one of the best in franchise history. But with the way that the modern NBA works, you have to pay the luxury tax. You have to pay the taxes. And for the Pacers, who've notoriously not done that, I think it's that time. I mean, it's kind of a realization, John. I wanted to ask you this to kind of bounce back. Is this a title contending team to you? Because if the answer is yes, that's an easy pay the tax every single time.
No, I do. I think it is. I think it has continued growth. Now, I would also agree with you. I think you can always add something and make yourself better. But what you don't want to do is compromise the cohesion you have with this group either. So, I mean, listen, it's probably not always going to be the same. But much like I did last summer, I have full trust in the group that you have that have been through it, and the veterans and those that are growing into it right now. I don't understand why there would be a reason, and we still may find one, because clearly the season is not over by any stretch of the imagination, and maybe if the stakes get even higher, there's a reason why you have to make a move to try to get better. But looking at this right now, this has been, I think, a perfect rebuild for Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan and Rick Carlisle for this Pacer team. Everything works, and a part of the reason why, Evan, they are so good is because the left hand and the right hand always knows what each other is doing. And there was no greater example of that than that intentionally missed free throw by Tyrese Halliburton at the end of game number 2. Would you agree?
Yeah, I know some people are crazy.
Which he said he did not do, but I still say that he intentionally missed it.
I'm with you. I know he won't say it publicly. I tweeted it out right after it happened. I'm like, the way he played that, the way Miles Turner read that play, the way that Halliburton reacted off that miss, I think he did miss that on purpose because that set up that three-point shot there at the end. But real quick to pivot for a second, John, I wanted to give a quick note to Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan, this front office, because the Andrew Nembhard contract and the Aaron Nesmith contract, they are aging beautifully. They're both going to be probably one of the best value contracts in the NBA. Nembhard making less than $20 million in the next 2 years. Aaron Nesmith making $11 million annually the next 2 years through 2027. Those two contracts alone there, John, are going to be the reason why you can keep Miles Turner and the reason why you can potentially pay some of these younger guys, because locking those two guys in, bona fide starters on bench contracts, basically, that is a heist of a steal for this team and lets this core stay together long term. So keeping those two contracts, I think, is a big note because Nembhard and Nesmith, when you look at guys like Kevin Durant or Devin Booker making $50, $60 million a year, you have those two guys under contract combined for about $30 million a year. That's how you keep a good team together and you let these guys play and pay the tax a little bit.
Is there anything, Evan, that you have as far as any other NBA players, just to give Pacer fans an example, any other NBA players that you would consider in a similar value situation as you just described, both Nembhard and Nesmith being for the Pacers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say Mikal Bridges would be that guy for the Knicks, but he's going to be making probably $30+ million this upcoming summer when he's extension eligible. But when you look around the league, like a underrated guy, like a Herb Jones from New Orleans Pelicans, he makes around $12 million a year. He's an All-NBA defender, a good shooter. He's not on a good team, though. That's the difference, is that Herb Jones is on a really bad Pelicans team. But you have Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith making for Nembhard, less than $20 million a year, and Nesmith $11 million a year. There are not a lot of guys in this league, unless you're on a rookie scale contract, making that amount of money and giving that production on that value. So there really isn't a lot of examples. And I think kind of goes to show you, John, in my opinion, at least, if you're in the front office, if you're the Simon family, if you're Stephen Rails, you kind of have a window until 2028 now where these contracts are going to come off the books, and you have maybe potentially a Siakam contract off the books in a couple of years, where I think their window to win a championship is not just this year. It's just beginning. I think you have a 2 or 3 year window here with this core if you let it play out. And the big question is going to be, are the Simons, are they going to be able to pay that money and pay that repeater tax, and how that goes a couple of years from now? Because that's what's going to happen. If you want to win a championship, you're going to have to pay those taxes. And obviously those taxes, if you win a title, John, I mean, none of this matters. I mean, you're easily doing that every single time.
Evan Sidery talks NBA on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. What do you make of everybody, with the exception of finally OKC breaking through at home? What do you make of all the road winning that's going on? Unprecedented levels of road winning in the Eastern and the Western Conference semifinals.
Yeah, so interesting fact I was able to dig up this past couple of days is this is the first time in NBA history where the conference semifinals, every single underdog in the series won game one, and it flipped the home court advantage right away for every single series. First time ever that's happened before. It just kind of shows you the parity in the NBA this year, where I originally thought the Thunder and Celtics are going to just cruise through this whole postseason. They're going to probably meet in the finals, but you're seeing Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets give the Thunder a really good run for their money. Ultimately, I think OKC is going to win that series, but I think it's probably going to 6 or 7 games the way it's gone so far. And then when you see the Knicks up 2-0 on the Celtics, where I would have originally thought they're probably going to win in 4 or 5 games, where just cinematic-wise, John, just envisioning Indiana hosting Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks for a chance at the finals. I mean, if you're listening out there, you're licking your chops. I mean, I can't envision a more storybook scenario than potentially going to a finals with the Knicks in the way. I mean, that's one of the best scenarios I think I can envision if you're a Pacers fan out there. So I think it's set up beautifully for them. And you look ahead a little bit, it's going to be a big question to see how it happens.
Right. And also, if you're paying attention, evidently, let's just say both teams make it and go through to the Eastern Conference Finals, you would end up getting a home game in the Eastern Conference Finals on race day or race evening here. So you would have Pacers and Racers, I think for the first time since 2004 when the Tornadoes blew through, I think. Just a couple of times that's happened, and everybody didn't like that moment with the Tornadoes. I think back in 2004 was that particular year, but some moments indeed that are lasting memories here.
Oh, for sure, yeah. You mentioned 2004. I'm I'm not 100% sure. You can double check me on this, but I think there might have been Pacers versus Racers and the Granger Paul George era against.
There might have been missing one too. I know there were two that jump off the page to me, and I think 04 was one.
Yeah. 04. I think it was 2013-14. But yeah, God, if that happens for this town, I mean, that's incredible. And the way it's broken so far in the playoffs for the Pacers, you can't write a better script, and they just got to finish it off and capitalize on it.
There it is. It's Evan Sider. You got to run here, I know. Give me a quick thought before you do go on what you think is going to take place tomorrow night in Game 3 at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
I think it's kind of everything, to be quite honest with you, John. If they win this game, I think they win this series potentially in a sweep, if not probably 5 games. I think it's going to be a demoralizing loss for the Cavaliers if they lose this game tomorrow. We'll see the status on guys like Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter. We'll see if any of those guys play at all. But you have to imagine if they go in and win this Game 3 at home, it's going to be an awesome environment tomorrow night. I think they're going to sweep this series. If they lose this game, I think all bets are off at this point. Yeah. If they lose Game 3, all the pressure is back on the Pacers. If they lose Game 4, you're going back to Cleveland tied 2-2, and I think you're in a really, really dangerous scenario there. So I would say close it out Game 3, and then you kind of have a couple chances of, hey, you can screw up a couple times and still win this series. I think you have to capitalize and win this game tomorrow. It's probably the biggest game I imagine for Pacers fans in a really, really long time.
You expect all 3 of those guys back playing for the Cavs tomorrow?
I don't know about Darius Garland. I think his is a little bit more serious of an injury from what I've heard. I think he might be out tomorrow if I had to guess. But Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, I think both those guys are for sure to be a go.
All right, Evan, I know you got to run here, man. I appreciate it as always. Thanks for coming on here. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, anytime, John. Thanks again.
That's Evan Sidery right there. Forbes Sports and more covers the NBA, does a great job of doing so. And I gave you a little bit of insight. If you like the way this team is built and I know that there's a lot of work to be done, and we'll over-evaluate the situation as we normally over-evaluate all situations around here. But how the Pacers could, as close as they can, run it back again, and that's factoring in a new deal for 33. That's Evan Sider. If you missed any of that, the podcast, 1075thefan.com. That is coming up. I would also advise you at some point, you don't necessarily have to do it right now. I'd appreciate if you would continue listening, maybe chime in to whatever you normally do. But the game runs through Indy. It is at Players Tribune. It is an article that has been penned by Miles Turner of the Pacers. And it is very well written. I promise when you decide to read it, it is not going to waste your time. You will absolutely dig it. But the Players Tribune and an article regarding his years here, the evolution of both he and this team, the ups and the downs, and obviously the moments in which they are living right now. Miles Turner. All right, 239-1070. I owe Joe a call here. Joe, sorry for the wait. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
First is, I know there's a lot of work to do, but how cool would it be to have Halliburton's dad sitting next to Spike Lee on courtside?
Yeah, I don't think, well, I mean, I don't know how long, for an extended period of time, I think is how it was described, right?
Yeah.
So,
well,
and clearly they didn't want the distraction now. So,
right.
I mean, that may hold true as well. You kind of wonder how long that would last. How long would he be considered, I guess, on punishment, right, Joe?
Yeah. The other question, just real quick, is, I think everybody's opinions would have been different a week and a half ago, but right now, who's the better matchup if the Pacers get through this? Is it New York or is it Boston?
Well, if you're asking me right now, because there is so much uncertainty with that mystery illness surrounding Porzingis, and clearly he's a huge part of what they do, and I think the overwhelming factor is, and this could change on a dime, but they can't shoot straight. The thing they do the best, and certainly the thing they do the most, they don't do well right now at all. And I don't necessarily think that is all to do with the Knicks defense. I just think right now they're in a rut. As much as you can get in a zone and hit absolutely everything, They can't hit a damn thing, and their major stars are the ones that are struggling and not being able to hit a damn thing. So I think right now, if you're going to ask, if we live in the moment, you'd probably say, yeah, not only would you get a chance with a rematch with Boston from last year and being swept, but they also can't shoot straight. And, the Knicks certainly are better adding Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns to what they have right now. But you can make the argument that the Knicks could easily wear down. They have, two dudes off the bench, if that? I mean, Thibodeau rarely plays his bench to any degree, any length. So that's where the Pacers thrive. And Boston doesn't have much of one either. So I would have to say, just by virtue of the last two games, Boston, because they just can't do right now what they normally do at a high percentage and a high level, and that's shoot the three.
Well, I think it's always, regardless of the matchup at this stage, it's whoever shows up.
Yeah.
But personally, I'd rather see it.
Yeah, it's different to me. Like, I hate even saying Boston because of the ownership the Celtics had of the Pacers. I mean, the Pacers were in those games and certainly had a chance to win a couple of those in that sweep last year. But Boston is a defending champion. You rarely say that. I just suggest that because in these first two games, they don't look anything like Boston for the most part of the regular season.
I think everybody in the league would like to see the Pacers on the Knicks.
No doubt. Yeah. That stirs the echoes of the past and the 90s. And the thing about the Knicks, man, they've got an absolute killer at the end. I know that Tatum and Brown are both at that level too, but they're kind of out of it right now shooting it. We saw Tatum kind of dribble into a triple team and get his stuff blocked. I don't know what. In the last two games, he had those moments late in shooting where you kind of wonder what he was doing because he's searching for it. He doesn't have it right now. Whereas, Brunson, they look like in late game situations, especially after, getting back into it after being down 20, they know what they're doing and they're certainly being able to survive. So, yeah, I think it just is probably game to game as to what you would select. We may have a completely different angle after the next two, even in New York, if Boston comes back and starts being Boston offensively again.
Thanks, man.
You got it, Joe. Thanks for waiting on hold there. Yeah, I'm really hesitant to say it because Boston is very good. They just can't shoot it. If you watch them the last two, it is tough not to have what you rely upon for your existence, to thrive, to be at your best. They don't have it right now. It could happen in a moment's notice. Hey, by the way, too, one ticket, and it's not a good ticket either. The Game 3 resale ticket price, one ticket for the Knicks Celtics Game 3 coming up. That's Saturday afternoon, James, I believe.
That sounds right.
$600.
Whoa.
Right there. Over $600. Yeah, listen, a lot of people, and rightly, you should still look at the Celtics as the favorite, even if they're down 0-2 because they're the defending champion. They just look terrible. I think even the Vegas odds have Cleveland, I believe, the favorite, right? Tomorrow night in Game 3, Vegas odds still have the Celtics the favorite. So to Vegas, I don't know how much proving has been going on to this point. I'd have to recheck for Game 3 coming up tomorrow night. I think Greg sent me that a little bit earlier regarding the odds. But if you just watch Boston play, they can't find it right now. They're searching, and they continue to put it up. But still the odds-on favorite for sure would be the Celtics, even going back to New York and squaring off against the Knicks in Game 3 down 0-2. As of right now, NBA championship odds: Thunder, Celtics, Cavaliers, Knicks, Timberwolves, Pacers. The Pacers are right there in front of the Nuggets, so the Timberwolves have better odds than the Pacers, huh? Then let's see. MVP, Gilgeous-Alexander, Tatum, Edwards, Mitchell, Brunson, Joker, and there's Halliburton. Just some odds right there. But, yeah, Boston has not looked Boston-like in the last two. And also in the process, they have blown a pair of 20-point leads in the process. All right, quick break. We'll come back. If you're on hold, I'll get to you. If you're not, you can get there. Mike Chappell's going to join us coming up at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Thank you for joining us. A lot of Game 3 conversation and a lot of afternoon baseball. Yeah, I know Reds fans. Did you feel like, as a Reds fan, that, here we go again? I saw the Hunter Green injury. Evidently, from what they said, it's a groin situation. Reds finally get back in the win column, 19-19 on the season. Nick Lodolo gets the ball tonight. Cincinnati one more time on the road against the Atlanta Braves. That is a 7:15 gathering down in Atlanta for those two teams. I am checking. A couple of finals on the board today. Twins over the Orioles 5-2. Red Sox blanked the Rangers by a final of 5-0. Top of 8, Royals 6, White Sox nothing in KC. Bottom of 5, Tigers all over the 6-win Rockies. You heard me correctly. 6-29. That's an absolute brutality right there. Quick break. We'll come back. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Fan.
Well, I think it was to be expected. They were going to give us a shot. You know, when you lose a game in a playoff series, that next game, typically, you know, your first quarter, you get out to, you know, better starts. You know, it's a good morale boost. I think we did a good job of weathering the storm and working our way back in. If there's anything we can do better, is just, you know, withstanding the pressure, breaking the pressure a little bit, especially full court. And then defensively, we got to find a way to, you know, get better on the glass. You know, the offensive rebounds for however many points they had definitely hurt.
That's Miles Turner right there. Miles actually has a great article that he has written himself for the Players Tribune that I would advise Pacer fans to check out. Maybe not right now, but at some point you can check it out too. J-Law writes this: the more I watched Halliburton's free throw attempt that he missed, the more I believe that he did that purposely. Look how deliberate he was on the delivery. Shot was kind of methodical. Dan Patrick totally agrees with you on that too. Now, you can make the argument the reason why he knew where he was going on is because he's the first one that's going to know, especially if you shoot it short like that. But to me, that was as well an executed moment as you could have had out of a timeout. And if I were them, I would say, yeah, you know what, we missed that bad boy on purpose. I like the story itself. I know Halliburton was asked. I think Tony East asked him after the game. But J-Law, I think I'm going to stick with our thoughts on it because I dig that. I think I dig that more than the actual story or the real story right there. Because everything, again, went perfectly in that moment, and it had to go perfectly. Think about all the things that had to fall into place late to get them that win. And then to be able to bury the three, Cavaliers have no timeouts. And if you noticed on the inbound right there, which was a little over a second remaining, so there's no time to do jack squat. Because, in fact, I don't even think that Merrill got a shot off before the buzzer. It wasn't even a shot. It was kind of a toss or a heave. But you watch Donovan Mitchell, who had gone for 48 in that game, he kind of just said the hell with it. He ran the baseline. Siakam picked him up defensively on the baseline, and then I think it was Strus that threw it into Merrill, and then he'd do that heave that didn't go anywhere near. I think that heave, however, if you watch the games last night, if you watch Mitchell Robinson at the free throw line, I think the Merrill heave at the end of game 2 was closer than that Robinson free throw last night if you watched that. I don't think I have ever seen it. We've watched some bad free throw shooters. Shaquille O'Neal, incredibly bad free throw shooter. Remember Chris Dudley, how bad he was at the free throw line? Give me your most noted, horrific free throw shooters. You know, anybody that's ever been in the crosshairs of a hack situation. Hack a bad free throw shooter. Robinson's free throw attempt, I don't think I have ever last night seen anything as bad and as off as that. Seriously, I would guess, and I don't know what your athletic ability might be as to what level, but I'm guessing right now that most of you could go out to the free throw line and could, like, punt it from the free throw line, lightly punt it toward the basket, and come closer than that particular free throw attempt. I've never seen, it's almost like it slipped out of his hand on the release or something. No, it was literally 3 feet short. It's comical. And the Knicks are working their way back, down 20, working their way back in game number 3. Now, Kevin Harlan had the great call of it. You can just kind of tell that Boston just didn't have it. Boston was not going to be able to make anything unless they got fouled and went to the free throw line. But the Robinson free throw attempt may have been the worst that we have ever witnessed last night, if you're watching that game number 2 of the Celtics and the Knicks. So, Celtics down 0-2 in their best of 7. Game 3 for them is coming at Madison Square Garden, coming up on Saturday afternoon, I believe, is when that is. You saw last night Denver and OKC even, that was not even a game. That was not a game from the outset. Denver puts up an incredible number. I think actually an NBA record for the postseason, right, in a quarter. Was it for a first half? First half in the postseason where they put up 87? OKC, and there was zero resistance from the Nuggets. So that would beg the question, and I'll run this back. Had the Pacers, for example, lost in Game 2 the other night, and I thought the same thing last night watching Denver lose in the fashion in which they did. Had the Pacers lost to a very undermanned team in the Cleveland Cavaliers, much like we saw last night, Denver lose, and not to an undermanned team. They were overwhelmed. They were swamped. I mean, their boat absolutely sank. How would you feel about going into Game 3 had Halliburton not buried that three and they would have won? I mean, is it amazing the different feeling that you have right now? Because I'm assuming it is really tough if you cover the Nuggets or you're a Denver Nuggets fan going back to Denver. You did the job. It's interesting, too, because normally you get a win in one of those first two if you're the road team, and that makes those two games. You do your job. You do what is ultimately asked of you. You got to get one. You need to get one. You do that. So with Gordon knocking down that three in game number 1, do you just pat them on the back and say, job well done? Or do you factor in how they got absolutely depantsed last night? I can't imagine it could have been any worse. So I kind of wondered to myself how different of a feel they may have in Denver, even with the Nuggets winning game 1. Because that's what you witnessed last night, because that's how they got clowned in game number 2. There was zero stopping OKC. And then it had me reflect on game number 2 with the Cavaliers and the Pacers and wondering if we would not feel in a similar fashion. Had the Pacers not come from behind, 7 down, 40-plus seconds, whatever, and then the Halliburton 3 that closed the deal. And then all of that had to take place. The lack of give-up is one, but some of the situations that you had to put yourself in, whether it was missed free throws or putbacks, there were non-calls in there. You talk about the lane violations, and we talk about, the push in the back on Neesmith. That should have been an N1. The flagrant that wasn't called, that should have been. All these factors that came to pass on this and then ultimately led to Halliburton and knocking down that 3 for the win. I would gather that we would feel a hell of a lot different going into tomorrow night. You'd feel good because it's now even, and now you have home court, but maybe not entirely the same. Now, OKC and Denver gave you a little bit of a taste of that last night. Jennifer writes this, JMV, now I'm 99% sure they put Foster on game 3 here and watch for the same story to play out as it did last night in OKC. Pacers will be at 5,004 minutes. I don't know if Scott Foster is going to be doing the game tomorrow night. I kind of wonder, will they give him a little bit of space? So he worked last night, was the first time he had worked. He had calf strain, I think, or an injury of some kind back in March 17th. So he hadn't worked a game since March the 17th. So does he go Tuesday, Friday? Or wait until later on this weekend? I did say this, Jennifer. I think you're either going to get him on Friday or on Sunday. I think in one of these games, you're going to end up getting Scott Foster. Because we were graced with the presence of Tony Brothers in game number 2. So I'm assuming Scott Foster is going to get either game 3 or game 4 here, right? At some point? That's exactly what I would gather out of that. The Sancio Grand Prix coming up this weekend. A little bit of discussion on that coming up on tomorrow's show. Mike Chappell, a little Colts information, some NFL information, too. The Pickens deal yesterday. How much better did Dallas get in Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh thinking about in this scenario right here, too. Maybe not so much what we care about with Mike, but certainly a big story around the NFL yesterday. And we'll talk about quarterback competitions. We'll talk about the meeting with the media, for example, with Lou Anarumo that happened this week, too. And the expectation of what this defense is going to look like. Are they putting together pieces like what he had in Cincinnati when he was at his best? This is going to be something that is a little bit weird, I think, for Colts fans to watch. It is going to be very secondary, very defensive back entailed defensively with this group this year. We discussed that and more with Mike Chappell coming up after 5. Qualifying tickets to give away. Rob Thomas tickets to give away. Back in studio tomorrow and a lot more for you. Mother's Day weekend is upon us, and you've got Games 3 and Game 4 with the Pacers in the postseason against the Cavaliers up 2-zip in that best of 7. You will not want to go anywhere other than right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Right. 1, 2, 5. Lisa, 3.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
That's some Rob Thomas tickets for you. August 22nd, Everwise Amphitheater downtown. Go get it. Number 9 at 239-1070. So my son just sent me some livery for Jacob Abel in the Sancio Grand Prix this weekend. That is the High Life. Is Miller High Life the livery on his ride? That's impressive right there. I dig the High Life on the side of somebody's ride. Yeah, number 9 at 239-1070. I got sidetracked there just a little bit. Now, Rob Thomas, shout out to Live Nation. Hey, by the way, too, speaking of tickets, I Want My 80s featuring Rick Springfield, Wang Chung, Paul Young, and John Waits coming in June. Fisher's Event Center. Have you been there before, which is awesome? Going to be great. I got tickets for you coming up on Saturday night on the JMV Takeover. Just found that out today. So if you want to go, and I am definitely going to go. I've never seen Wang Chung before. I've seen everybody else there, but that will be an outstanding show. And the Fisher's Event Center is awesome. That is coming up in June. And the great part about this is, if you are, much like me, big time into the 80s, there is an absolute ton for you to check out. The spring and summer here in and around the area, whether you're talking about Fisher's Event Center for I Want My 80s, how about Simple Minds, Soft Cell, Modern English, Ruoff Music Center. They joined Joan Jett, Brian Adam. No, check that. Joan Jett and Billy Idol at Ruoff. You had Toto, Men at Work, Christopher Cross at Ruoff. There is one also coming, A Flock of Seagulls, Bow Wow Wow, and An Emotion. I think that's at the Murat. But man, if you dig the 80s like I dig the 80s, and I know a lot of you do, you are going to be handled this spring and summer with great opportunities. And my advice to you is go see everybody you can and don't put it off, because you never really know when it's the last time you can see them. And I know this from experience. Unfortunate experience. I did get a chance to see Gordon Lightfoot. And I thought people say, wait a minute, Gordon Lightfoot's like 80 years old. Why are you doing that? For one, I love his catalog. And number two, you just never know when it's going to be your last chance. And you want to cherish, embrace those opportunities. And I do. Just a little bit of sound advice from somebody that loves music and live shows and having a hell of a good time. Yeah, the place to be. By the way, too, our AAA friends, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Have you been to the AAA Membership Premier Lounge at Ruoff? That's cracking open again this summer. And I know Matt and Matt put this thing together. It is awesome. So we're going to do, hopefully, some live shows up there before the shows themselves. But that is the place to be before any show at Ruoff with AAA. And if you become a AAA member, as you well know, you get great deals. And one of those would include the Premier Lounge with AAA. That is before and during every show at Ruoff. So soak it up. Great times. All right, quick one. We'll come back. Mike Chappell, top of the hour. The latest in the NFL on the Colts and a lot more. Do not go anywhere. Lou Anarumo and others met with the media this week. We'll get down to that and what you should expect from this defense, starting with the look of this defense this year. A little bit more on the Pacers as well. Sit tight. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
with JMV.
Stand by, Stryker. We're going to the tower. Good luck. We're going to the tower.
The tower? The tower? Rapunzel! Rapunzel!
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, nice 80s re-entry right there. See, this is somebody that you can't see any longer. Take advantage of it, everybody. So David Land and Tony Donahue have a podcast. And I was talking about Jacob Abel and Dale Coyne Racing a little bit earlier, unveiling today the brand new livery, and I absolutely love this. I got to get him on the show just so I can talk about this livery. Miller High Life sponsorship for the greatest spectacle in racing. This is a badass looking ride right there. I dig it. The High Life. I just sent that out once again on X, so check that out. And a shout out to Jacob Abel and Dale Coyne for having some badass livery right there for sure. Grand Prix coming up this weekend, Game 3 between the Cavaliers and the Pacers. Pacers up 2-0, best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. That is coming at you tomorrow. Shout out to my man Matt Goins, who's listening right now. He's the prez of AAA, asking, all right, what shows are we going to? I wanted to say all of them, but for sure, one for sure that I mentioned is Simple Minds, Soft Cell, and Modern English, because 2 of those 3, Simple Minds and Soft Cell, they tour around Europe, but rarely, if ever, come to America. And by God, here they are. So I'm going to hang out with Jim Kerr and Mark Allman, Simple Minds, Soft Cell, for sure, Matt. And you can check out the AAA Premier Lounge, which is awesome. Yeah, I know. Concert season at Ruoff is almost now upon us. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from CBS 4 and Fox 59, covers the Colts and has since they got here. Mike Chappell joins us. I'm going to redirect at the beginning here.
Sure.
Because you've also been around all Pacer teams of all time. I have stated this is one of my favorite groups ever, if not my most enjoyable ever. I'm curious where this group, and I know you don't cover them on a daily basis, but you do pay a great deal of attention. Does this group have a high rank for you as well as far as enjoyment and knowing that they have that cohesion, that teamwork, and how everything works? Because those are all the things that I consider as to why I believe this is one of, if not my favorite ever.
Yeah, just the way they're put together, they're fun to watch. I'm one of the last guys on the train about 3-pointers. I understand the analytics, but it still drives me crazy that Halliburton or somebody drives the lane and they've got a 10-foot shot and they kick it out for 3. I understand why you do that and all that, but it's just it's a team that it is unselfish, and any night somebody can drop 25 on them, whether it's Siakam or Neesmith or Nimhard or Halliburton. Or Turner, for crying out. I mean, is there a better story than Miles Turner? You know, how many times people have been ready to run him out of town, and he's just good. He's just not super flashy, but he just does a lot of things good. So, yeah, it's a fun team to watch. I the only times I've really covered the Pacers when I was at the Star is when they made playoff runs. I mean, I was in the group that went to Detroit. Remember the Detroit series is when it was like 79 to 78.
Yeah.
And when it got really offensive, it was 86 to 80. And then I was fortunate to go on the final trip. Was it 2000? I was in the group that went with the reporters on the finals with the Lakers. And when the Lakers clinched it in 6, I think it was, or 5, whatever it was, and we had to stay in the forum for like an hour because they were rioting outside because they won. But they're just fun to watch. There's no animosity. So, and I was talking to Jake earlier in the week, and the contagiousness of when pro franchises are successful.
I understand there's a segment of of Central Indiana that never buys into the subsidizing stadiums and pro teams and all that stuff. But the undeniable bounce the community gets when your team is successful, is making a run, it's just undeniable. That's why I'm hoping the Colts get back there soon, because it just makes everything better. The quality of life. I know we're getting too deep and people don't care that aren't sports people, but it just makes your everything better. And that's what's fun about these guys. And I don't think they're doing anything crazy as far as players playing out there, doing things they shouldn't do. So it's really cool to see these guys come together, and they don't seem to care who gets the points, the assists, or whatever. It's a collective effort, and Rick Carlisle's done a great job. So it's just, I would suggest they win Game 3.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to have Cleveland having hope, and then Game 4 becomes really, really important. So I hope they can get out early and just keep their throat on their neck. It won't happen because that's not the way the playoffs have been. But, boy, this is fun to watch. It really is.
So Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. And if the Pacers were to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals in back-to-back seasons, we know how that ended last year. I think last year they had Eastern Conference Finals games. Both were losses on Saturday and Monday, if memory serves. This year you would have an Eastern Conference Finals on race evening following race day, and I believe that's happened a couple of times. 2013 and back in 2004. I believe 2004 was the tornado, was it not? The tornadoes that took place on that particular Sunday around here, the bad weather.
What is Sunday that'll be in town?
Oh,
Would
my
be
goodness.
in town if they can get it done.
Yeah.
And again, have whatever they have, 500, 700,000 people down there at the IMS, and then have downtown just going crazy. So it's just great. Again, I understand this is our world. Sports is our world. I understand that, and a lot of people don't care. But what a great time, whether it's Final Fours, the year they had the Super Bowl here, and how the city responds and does things well. We can't get ahead of ourselves on the double up on race day, but boy, this is what you do. You play to put yourself in position to do something, and that's what they've done. You hope they carry it through. I don't think the Cavs are done yet, but boy, when you gag 2 games, I want to give the Pacers all the credit in the world for what they did. But boy, you need help. You need help to be in position, and the Cavs have done that. So just finish it. Wouldn't it be cool if they swept? I don't think they do that, but it's just that they're finding ways. That one stat, what is it? Trailing by 7 with 40 seconds to play, and teams have won 3 times in whatever it is, 1,700, and the Pacers have done it twice. I wouldn't want to live by that, MO, but it's good to know you can do that if you have to.
You don't want to go back to Cleveland. I mean, you just don't. It's much like what we thought about in Game 5 when there was that possibility with Milwaukee. You didn't want to have to go back. You find a way. But I will ask you this, Mike, because I watched this last night when Denver lost in the fashion in which they did in Game 2. Now, the work was already done. They had a game 1, and you feel good when you go back home because you now ripped home court advantage away. But I would also question the fashion in which you take a beating as they did in Game 2, how good of a feeling that is going into Game 3. And that's what I thought Game 2 might end up looking like, because you don't have 3 of your guys in Cleveland. And if they were to end up winning that, without that come-from-behind win, without Halliburton's shot, then even though you take away home court, what's the feeling like if you're even losing in that fashion coming up tomorrow night? I would think it would be much different.
Yeah, I don't know. NBA guys can tell you more about momentum and from game to game and switching sites and all that, but there's got to be a carryover for the Pacers. And again, they're going to see a team that is so desperate on Friday. Although I thought the Cavs should have been a lot more desperate at home in Game 2, But like I say, you got a chance to really put your foot on their throat, and the last thing you want to do is give a team a reason to believe. And that's kind of what Cleveland did in that game too. I'm sitting there watching it, and I thought the Pacers were down 30 most of the game. And you look up, and at the end of 3, was it 12 or 14? I'm thinking, they've let a team hang around, and normally when you let a team hang around, you pay for it. So that's why I say that they've got a chance at home. Cambridge is going to be jacked. It's going to be jacked, and you hope they come out and really play well and just take care of business. And then Game 4, I don't know. I still think it goes back to Cleveland. It's hard for me to believe they'll just sweep Cleveland, but take care of Game 3, and then the idea that Cleveland's going to win 3 out of 4, it's really, really unlikely.
Yeah, he is Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. I'm right there with you, though. Games 3 and 4, you get it done. You can get it done right here and not have a return venture.
And you can rest. And you can rest up.
Yeah.
And you can rest up because I think Knicks Celtics is going to be a bar fight for 7 games. I really do. So sit back and let those guys beat each other up, and then just sort of get healthy and wait for whoever survives.
I saw the quote from Samson Ibukam yesterday about Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator.
Right.
Quote, he's very serious. He knows what he wants. He demands it because he brings out the competitive side in people. This coincides with what the criticism, one of the major criticisms of this group, this team a year ago, was the entitlement that they got in playing time and snaps. It seems like there is so much that's pointing the finger to that and trying to explain to everybody that there is something new that you have to deal with now. It's not entitlement. You have to earn everything. Is that a 180 compared to what we were thinking and what we were criticizing a year ago regarding entitlement?
Yeah, and Chris Ballard even admitted that he was wrong in the way they did things last year, they brought, 8 or 10 players back with extensions and new contracts. In a few cases, it worked, and in too many, it did not. And last year was a little bit awkward because there were so many players who were going to be free agents. So they had to do that. This year, that wasn't the case. But no, and until we see things, there's going to be optimism with the new defense. We talked to DeForest Buckner yesterday, and he was the one that really called them out. He said, hey, we took a step back last year, and he took accountability. He said, I'm a leader, and that's partly on me. But he's the last person. He is the last person I would point a finger at on this defense. I'm stunned that he's still here. I'm stunned that he's bought in to what this franchise is doing. He's still a top 5 player at his position, and if he were somewhere else, he would be getting a lot more individual recognition. But he's bought in. He wants to be part of this. And again, what they've done, you bring in a starting corner, you bring in a starting safety. Then you sign Daniel Jones, and then you get your tight end. When I did my 5 main areas of concern going into the offseason, they've taken care of 4 of them. Now, the only one they haven't done is linebacker, and of all 5 of those, linebacker is the one. If that's the only one that's not done, I'm okay with it. I'd rather have that than one of the other positions. So there's optimism. Again, with Samson Ebukam, I just don't know what to expect. I really don't. He's coming back from an Achilles. And apparently he's doing quite a bit now. He thinks he'll be in a good spot at the end of OTAs in June. And he told us that he expects to be medically cleared by training camp. And we'll see what they can get from him. I mean, he had 9.5 sacks 2 years or in 23 when they had 51 as a team. And they missed him last year. They just did. They dropped from 51 sacks to 36, I think it was. So he's something of a wild card, what they could do. But there should be optimism with this defense because they've added so many good players and a new coordinator. So I think the arrow's up, but that's how it's going to be until you go out there in September and either you do it or you don't. But at least there's a new direction. And I know Gus Bradley's been beaten up quite a bit over his 2 or 3 years, the last 2 or 3 years here. But at the same time, they really didn't give him enough, quality players at key positions that they were lacking in some spots. And now Lou's got some better players. So I'm encouraged, but we'll see what happens when they get out there and it really matters.
Is it fair to say or suggest that Chris gave Lou Anarumo the players that he wanted and were necessary, and maybe he didn't with Gus Bradley? Maybe it was still more his philosophy on players with Bradley, or is that wrong?
Well, a little it's right, because, again, I mean, they've been trying to at cornerback. They've been trying to go with their young players and develop those guys, and it just didn't work. Juju Brents, who, gosh, I hope he stays healthy, because he could be such a wild card for this group. Second-round draft pick that's he can make a difference. But last year they made the push for Daniel Hunter. It didn't work. So then you go into the season with one less pass rusher that you really had hoped for, although you get Latu in the draft. So yeah, I think that they did make an effort to finish negotiations with players. Remember how Ward thought he was going to the Saints, and then the Colts came back in and sealed the deal. So that's not been the case sometimes in the past. So a different approach. And again, to add these players, it was kind of like when they got better players in the past. Xavier Rhodes, although he was a little bit older and past that. But Stephon Gilmore, this is with Javarius Ward. This is a guy that they can put out there on Nico Collins if they want to, and make him not be to get his 150 yards, 200 yards against these guys. So better. This is. All these schemes are great, but it still comes down to players. It just does. People complain about the bend but don't break. Well, that was Dungy's defense. Bend but don't break. Well, but you had Bob Sanders and Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis and Gary Brackett and people like that. So better players make any defense better. So they've got the makings. Kenny Moore's back, and he's going to be in position to make plays. Zaire Franklin's going to come back, I think, refocused from last year. So there's reason for encouragement, not just because, we think our guys are going to get better this year. And I think Latu will get better in year two. But bringing in outside guys makes a difference. And I hope it follows through and you see it on the field.
So Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Will most of the player configurations and what I think we expect to be, a lot of dime situations, a lot of defensive back usage here, will that take a moment for Colts fans to get used to watching, to seeing?
Yeah. When's the last time you heard him say,
"Well, can't"? Yeah.
We're so deep at corner that we can play more DBs. That's not normally been the case. Now, the argument I would make, the pushback I would make, is you're doing that in part because you're thin at linebacker. They still don't know. I mean,
are they thin at linebacker because that's what they do?
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's what I thought. They don't really like linebackers become what we used to think the running back position was with this team now.
But I'd still like to have more than Zaire Franklin.
Understand.
I mean, they got 65 starts from Zaire. The next guy's got 8, and that's Jacob Phillips, who no one can pick out of, walking down the street. So they've got not a lot of proven depth. Carlisle's, I think, started maybe 6 games last year. So part of this being creative with the DBs is because you don't have proven people at linebacker. But at the same time, like Anarumo said yesterday, the days of covering tight ends with linebackers is sort of over. You've got to have DBs who can cover and do that. So, that's what's interesting. We're going to see, and if it works, it works. The only issue I have is sometimes when you're creative with this is because you're deficient somewhere. You always have we're going to be pass rush by committee. Well, you do that because you haven't got the guy to get you 12 or 13. So, but again, I think there's reason for optimism, and we've not seen some of these guys in positions they're going to be in, which is encouraging. They do have people in the secondary. They're still thin at safety, but they're pretty deep at corner. That's why I say if Juju Brents can come back, stay healthy, and be the guy. He was a second-round pick. If he comes out and stays healthy, it's like an extra draft pick with experience. So I like the makeup of the roster defensively. I'd like to see another linebacker added just because I would, and there's time for that. But they've taken care of most issues. You're not going to – every team's got something that they're concerned about. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's their quarterback? You know what I mean, for crying out loud. So everybody's got something they're concerned about. By and large, this team's in pretty good shape with what they've got. You need to develop young players. The offensive line, you know, I'd like to have another proven offensive lineman there, but this is what you've got. But so far, so good. Now, of course, which we've not mentioned, if the quarterback works out, they've got a chance.
So Mike Chappell's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. How do we, I guess, accurately, which is a loose term I'll use here, describe what is going to be the constant quarterback competition at every level of this offseason, all the way to the start of the season? Have you thought about how you're going to be able to accurately do that more than just say, both these guys stink and it's probably not going to work out like I normally do?
God, I hope that's not true. No, all we can do is when we have access to OTAs and training camp, and we'll all be out there charting the quarterbacks, because that's the only thing that we've got to go on. You know, how decisive do they look, and it's going to be whether our followers get tired or not. It's going to be today Richardson was 11 of 15, and Jones was 12 of 17. That's all we have. Now, the Steichen and Jim Bob and everybody else will have more details to go on, but that's all we're going to have, and this will be the eye test with all of us. You know, the guys at the Star and KB and everybody else, Stephen Holder and all this, James Boyd. It's going to be what you see, and I just think this is one of those that when I see a bad movie, I don't need to be told it's a bad movie. You see that it is. And I think we're going to see with our own eyes how it goes, who's made strides, who should be the guy in our eyes. The problem is there's a good chance that this is going to be really, really tight competition, because in OTAs and even training camp, you know, early training camp, there's not a ton of push with pressure and coverage and all that. Certainly there's not in OTAs. So it's the best case scenario is that Richardson steps up. He's made improvements in his fundamentals, and he's the guy. And when Steichen in September, August says Anthony Richardson is our starter for now, he needs to say for now, then Richardson stays healthy and he's the guy, and there's no looking over your shoulder. And Daniel Jones is a really, really nice insurance policy. Anything short of that, and every week it's going to be, well, who's your quarterback? And then after a half, when guy plays bad, well, you're going to go to the other guy. That's what you don't need, and it will hold the entire team back. Best case, Richardson is the guy, stays healthy, and they do whatever they do because the quarterback is playing pretty well.
Hey, before I let you go, considering we're talking about Cleveland and Indy, I'll leave you with this question. Would you rather be covering the quarterback situation here or in Cleveland?
Oh, my goodness. Here.
And that says a lot, too. That says a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything should be that Shedeur Sanders is a starter, but what a mess they've got. I mean, everybody knew that was an awful contract he did with Deshaun Watson, and it still is. I'll take this anytime, because either one of these guys is, you think, well, you know, if they stay on the field, they're not too bad. Those guys, I mean, holy smokes, that's awful, with good talent on the roster that they're just wasting. Myles Garrett, they're just wasting his prime years. I'd take this because they've got a complete mess that's only going to get – Deshaun Watson's going to be part of that team for another year or two because of the contract. No, I'll take this anytime.
It's Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, hanging out in Beech Grove, Indiana. Mike, I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. We'll do it again next week.
Talk to you later. Hopefully the series is over by then.
Yeah, hopefully we got some really good things to talk about.
There we go.
You got it. Thank you, Mike.
Later.
All right, good things for the Cavaliers regarding game number 3. Who was at practice? What type of participation? You guys heard? How about I tell you? We'll do that in front of Game 3 coming up tomorrow night. The other side, the state of the Cavaliers as I sit here and talk with you. That's on the other side. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now get your tickets now. You got Carb Day 2025, May the 23rd. That's on a Friday. We'll be doing our normal show in Pagoda Plaza. You join us. It is whether or not, sure, we'll see what the weather's going to be like with the whole shirtless intentions there. But no, seriously, we are going to hang together, not just for Carb Day with Brett Michaels and the All-American Rejects. Tickets available, ims.com. Make sure you're there. Hey, make sure you're there, if for nothing else, that is the starter to our weekend and our weekend together hanging with Braun's Funtime Campers. And our guy Austin out there. As for Austin on Pendleton Pike, he's got us hooked up with a camper. We've got our RV that's going to be set up from Carb Day all the way through Monday of race weekend and the Coke lot, doing the JMV Takeover live out there. So we all get to hang. That's the starter. We'll go from Carb Day and the All-American Rejects and Brett Michaels with us there, the party. We'll go over to Speedway. Well, we're already in Speedway, but over to Main Street. They have their block party. Actually, it's interesting. Before that, I believe on Thursday, our Tavern Tour stop with Brent Halverson and Heaven Hill Distillery, Dawson's on Main and Speedway. So there's another day that we can hang together out there. So let's do that. If we're going to have a party, what the hell, let's have a party. All the way through the weekend. And certainly it starts ims.com to get your tickets to make sure you're a part of Carb Day. And we shall be out there. Shout out to Jacob Apel, by the way, that has some awesome livery with the Miller High Life ride for the greatest spectacle in racing that was unveiled earlier today. That is awesome. James, I'm sorry. I was a little bit taken by this, and I know you're disgusted by it. But I don't know why. I'm assuming it's because it's one of my likes. How about this? High-protein cottage cheese fudge.
Awful.
That tastes like dessert. Who is making this for me right now? Good God Almighty, I got to have this.
That sounds like something a stoner would come up with,
seriously,
honestly.
I think it just moved. High-protein cottage cheese fudge that tastes like dessert. Here's the description. Combining the creaminess of cottage cheese with rich cocoa and just a few wholesome ingredients. This healthy fudge is a game changer for fitness-focused dessert lovers. Naturally sweetened and set in the fridge, simple to make, easy to store, and surprisingly, and I love the usage of this word, decadent.
Oh.
Perfect as a protein-packed bite or a guilt-free indulgence. Is proof that dessert and discipline can go hand in hand.
So does this have the flavor of fudge, but the texture of cottage cheese? Is that what I'm gathering here?
I mean, you put it in a blend, I'd imagine it's probably not going to be like the normal texture of cottage cheese.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down with that. Who's making that for me? You can use milk chocolate that would up, I'm sure, the caloric intake there, but dark chocolate, I guess, is utilized. High-protein cottage cheese fudge. I'm down.
Nope.
Down with that program right there. Thank you very much. I know that it's a little bit crazy. Somebody out there's got to make that for me.
If I ever catch you eating that in the studio with a can of tuna, I'm gonna be sick.
Does it gross people out when I walk through here with
it grosses me out.
Can you smell it?
When I walk into that little studio over there, when you're eating cottage cheese and your tuna, yeah, it's pretty rancid, man.
Hickory smoked tuna and my keto wrap is a go-to right there, buddy. Let me tell you that. All right, 239-1070 is the number. Pacers game number 3. I'd mentioned this too, and before I get to Jerome and his call, that Kenny Atkinson talked about the 3 missing Cavaliers. So today's practice in Cleveland, it was more of a shoot-around. More than a shoot-around, as explained, than a real practice. Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter, and Evan Mobley all got in some reps. Nothing was live, but as it was explained, they did something. And the expectation is, I think Evan Sider, who joined us earlier, thought that both Hunter and Mobley would be back, but Darius Garland remains in firm question. But they were getting some reps, according to their whiny-ass head coach, Kenny Atkinson, a little bit earlier today. And I feel bad about saying that because I like him before the whole whine thing started, and that kind of drives you nuts a little bit. But they all do it, right? But he is certainly being a heavy, whiny ass right now. All three participated. Yeah, we'll see coming up tomorrow night. All right, qualification tickets to number 9 at 239-1070. Is that right now, James? Or is that coming up next break?
Oh, no, that's good right now.
All right, let's do qualifying tickets for you. Number 9 at 239-1070. For somebody that wants to go, absolutely free on us. Thank you very much. Number 9 at 239-1070. Qualifying for the greatest spectacle in racing. And Jerome is up next at 239-1070. Hello, Jerome. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, my friend?
Jerome, fantastic. Go ahead.
Hey, I want those guys to play, man. I don't want any more
right there with you.
about how good our team is.
Right on.
The only thing, and I said this a couple weeks ago, I'm not worried about Cleveland, even if Cleveland steals one from us here. My concern is the Knicks. I think that we would really want to play Boston. The Knicks are fired. They're fired up because they feel that the only reason why we beat them last year is because they were injured. I want those two to beat each other up and go 7 games, and we be waiting on them. My other concern is how come Aaron Nesmith at $11 million a year ain't getting the love out there for one of those all-defensive teams? After he baptized Mitchell, come on, man, give him some love.
Hey, I will tell you this. He's getting love from those in the know, both he and Nimhard. And Evan Sider was on here earlier and talked about just how great their contract is for the Pacers and being able to consistently put a winner on the floor while also making sure you don't lose Miles Turner. So there are two parts of this for Nesmith in mind. He is at a high level, right? And he's very cost efficient for a team that wants to make sure they try it best to keep a lot of guys on it going into next year. So it works out both ways with him, certainly.
And my other question is, and I know you have the background in research, we make it to the NBA Finals, what's the odds possibly? Because the timing is about right to see some Isaiah Jackson.
I don't think that's happening. No. Don't think so. I mean, I don't know if anybody's asked, but I just assume we will not see Isaiah Jackson until next year like everybody else, so no. Jerome, anything else?
What about those tickets, man? Do I qualify?
No, somebody else got them already, buddy. I'm sorry. I took your voice on the air. Everybody else just won. We have multi-lines right here. Other lines got picked up. I'm sorry. Do you want to go sometime, Jerome?
Anytime. I got one more question.
Yeah, Jerome.
How does that Doug McDermott for Buddy Hield trade look right now?
What do you mean? I haven't looked at it recently. Should we be looking at it? I mean, listen, I like Buddy. No, that's okay. I like Buddy Hield, but I like the group that they have right now. I'm not really butthurt about that.
Just for what he's getting paid, and at the time, I mean, Buddy's playing way past his contract right now, too.
Yeah, sure.
And Doug McDermott shouldn't even be in the league.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not too worried about that right now. So maybe I should be, but I'm not. Anything else, Jerome?
Pacers in 6.
You got it. Thank you, Jerome. I would agree with him on this. Somebody asked me a little bit earlier, Boston or the Knicks, and I just suggested Boston because they rely upon high-volume three-point taking and making, and they're making jack squat presently. So that's the part you dig if you're trying to make that choice. But again, this is so evolving. I mean, hell, they may go to Madison Square Garden and shoot the lights out, and all of a sudden that thing goes back to Boston, tied at 2. You never know. A quick one, we'll come back. Finishing things out with phone calls. Get you set for tomorrow, game number 3. I'll tell you where we're going to be, not for this show, but after this show coming up tomorrow. And hell, we'll all hang out, have a couple before we go to Gainbridge Fieldhouse for game number 3. That and more coming straight at you. Stay right there. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
It is not.
It is. You just contradicted me.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did.
No.
You did just then.
No, nonsense.
Oh, look, this is futile.
No, it isn't.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, shout out to Gary Foster, Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day, 50-50, betting and dining from Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. On to Norway. $2.40 on a $2 bet. The $2 exacta was $15.20. 50-cent trifecta, $28.90. Way to go, Gary Foster. Today's winner of the Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day. We do this back again. First time was yesterday. Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino, live standardbred racing through November the 29th at Harris Hoosier Park in Anderson. Keep tuning in to this show. Watch my social media account, X, at JMV 1070 for your chance to win. That is the Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. It is back. Hey, that 50-50 in betting and dining is absolutely legit. Shout out to Tony Renz and our friends up at Harris Hoosier Park. We were there last Friday. It was awesome per usual. Well done. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, back in studio, too, but we are going. I think we're going to go down to Coach's Tavern and hang out right before the game, so you can join us if you're on your way to the game coming up tomorrow. Game 3, Pacers 2-zip best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals against the Cavaliers. Garland, Hunter, and Mobley did some form of shoot-around stuff today. Now, the expectation is you at the very least get 2 of the 3, with maybe Garland being the outlier. We shall see. 239-1070. Adam is up next. Adam, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, JMV, how we doing?
Adam, fantastic. Go ahead.
Well, as you know, I'm the runner, and I just heard you mention something about some nasty protein-packed cottage cheese with chocolate.
Did that not sound good to you?
I just, I can't do that. Like, before I race, I eat eggs, like the typical, egg.
Oh, I eat eggs.
Peanut butter, bacon.
I have 4 hard-boiled eggs that are peeled and ready to rock, cage-free, right now in my bag down the hall, ready to go. I'm a hard-boiled egg fiend.
Well, there you go. And also, I mentioned that to my girlfriend, and she said cottage cheese with mustard and boiled egg pieces is good.
Oh, I'm going to write this down. Cottage cheese with mustard and boiled egg pieces. Okay.
Yep, that's what she said.
That's good. I don't mind it. I can do it, I think. Those are 3 things that I don't do a lot of mustard, but I can do it. I tell you what did get me today. I've never been here before, right? And I haven't eaten out. I don't think I've eaten out at all, basically, since last summer. But I took my kid by Cousins Subs today. You ever been to Cousins?
No, but I heard about that the other day.
Well, Cousins Subs, apparently, for a limited time, they have a fried bologna sandwich. And I'm from southern Indiana, so clearly I would love that. I can't have that. However, they have a fried bologna bowl that I believe I can have right there. Is that like a cheat? Would that be a cheat meal? Fried bologna on top of salad? Would that be good?
I mean, hey, if you're all about bologna, I haven't had bologna in years, but it could be a cheat meal. I mean, you'd have to look into it.
I mean, if I'm turning back the clock, as I mentioned that I am right now, then I might as well turn it back to the days when I ate a crap ton of bologna. And that's what happened, right? So what do you think, Adam? Would you do that in your training? Little fried bologna on salad?
I might. I don't know. I'd be willing to try it. I mean, if we were sitting at the same place, he'd be like, "Hey, try this." I'd say, "All right, I'm good for it. Let's go."
Yeah, man. See, there you go, right there. And you would also go with the cottage cheese fudge, right? That I talked about earlier. Sure, high protein.
Now that might be a taste test. I'm not sure about protein cottage cheese, but
I got you. All right, Adam. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for the call in.
Oh, yeah.
High protein all the time for me, everybody, right there. Afternoon baseball, games in the books, 5-2 Twins over the Orioles today. Red Sox blank the range. It's 5-0. How about 10-0 Royals over the White Sox? White Sox now fall to 10-28 on the season. Now, you think that's bad, don't you? Tigers with their 24th win of the year, 10-2 over the Rockies. The Rockies are 6-30 Here's the kicker, though. 4-13 in Denver. They've won 2 games on the road this year, has Colorado. My goodness, that is awful. That's your Thursday afternoon baseball. Reds, Braves later on tonight. That is Nick Lodolo at 3-3. For the Reds. It looked like they dodged a bullet last night, too. Hunter Green, groin injury. I think everybody was concerned about the arm. He's had such a spectacular year. He's been so good so far. Nick Lodolo gets the ball tonight. Reds and Braves at 7:15 later on this evening. James, great job out of you. Evan Sidery talked NBA from Forbes a little bit earlier. Now, whether or not he believes this team can close it out with 3-4, a podcast at 1075thefan.com. Remember the Miles Turner penned article in the Players Tribune. I promise as a Pacer fan you will love it. Check that out. And Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. Loaded show coming up tomorrow. We'll follow the story regarding the 3 Cavaliers players to see if all 3 go, maybe 2 of the 3, in what is a must-win situation for the Cavaliers in Game 3 coming up tomorrow night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The story with us, with you, starts at 3. Have a great night.